And we're back, looking at more lost media, checking out this massive iceberg once again, and we're here for the second tier. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, you can go ahead and check that out, but that covered only the first tier of this insanely huge iceberg. And once again, I've got to shout out EqualRep, because not only did he make this iceberg, but he also came in clutch with some of these entries. I mean, some of these were so obscure, I literally couldn't find anything on them without his help, so big ups to him. Also, some people were wondering why the last part wasn't labeled as part 1, and it's because I'm trying something a little different here with the titles. First of all, I feel like these are just so long that they can kind of stand on their own as just one iceberg video, but also I feel like the ones that are split up into parts just don't perform as well. Also, you know, if you guys enjoy lost media and want to be along for the ride with us tackling this insanely long iceberg, make sure to subscribe. And alright, I gotta be honest, the first episode was lightweight compared to this one. See, part 1 had a total of 57 entries, and this one has 158. Yeah, basically 3 times the amount of entries, which is just wild, so we better just get started. So sit back, relax, grab a snack as we dive back into the definitive lost media iceberg. Zombie Nicktoons bumpers. These Halloween-themed Nicktoons bumpers from 2011 called Nicktoons Get Zombified were featured on the network for a very brief time, and showed many classic Nicktoons characters in zombie form, which was likely pretty scary for young audiences, and the bumpers were never aired after this, becoming lost media, with them being remembered many years later for how strangely disturbing and creepypasta-like they actually were. Many different versions of this were thought to exist, including one for Fairly OddParents, Fanboy and Chum Chum, Mighty B, and even SpongeBob. And fairly recently, in 2022, these lost bumpers were actually found. And for kids programming, yeah, they are kinda creepy. Although some of the other alleged ones, like the SpongeBob one, have not been found. So it's unknown if they really do even exist. RZA Lost Songs. American rap artist and producer RZA is said to have lost 300 beats due to a basement flood, although others put the number closer to 500. And this was during the 90s. There weren't any backups. The beats themselves were stored on floppy disks, which got soaked and ruined in the floods, unfortunately. Playboy TV hijack. A very strange television intrusion occurred on the Playboy channel on September 6, 1987, during the airing of a film called 3 Daughters. And during this hijacking, religious messages were displayed, including the Bible message, quote, "Thus saith the Lord thy God, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Repent, the kingdom of heaven is at hand." And a member of the Christian Broadcasting Network was arrested and charged in the incident. However, even still, no footage of the broadcast intrusion has been found. All that we have is this image of the text that was displayed on screen. Paper Mario Sticker Star 2010 E3 trailer. At E3 2010, the trailer for a new Paper Mario game for the 3DS was showcased. Paper Mario Sticker Star, although it wasn't called that at the time, and interestingly, despite being shown at E3, a large portion of the trailer is lost. Only a small part of the trailer is available in a low-quality video recording, as well as the rest of the audio from the trailer. But as of now, this demo and full trailer are both lost media. Max Headroom Hijack Audio. Another TV hijacking. Here we have the infamous Max Headroom incident. I'm sure most people have heard about this by now, but some may not know that there were actually 2 hijackings on the night of November 22nd, 1987 by the same perpetrators. The second hijacking is the infamous Doctor Who one, where we see the man dressed in the Max Headroom mask. but the earlier broadcast interruption, about 2 hours earlier, occurred during football game highlights, and we can see the same individual in the max headroom mask, although the audio here is muffled and basically inaudible. All we get is a loud buzzing static, which lasted about 30 seconds before the hijacking was stopped. And whatever audio was recorded on the end of the broadcasters hasn't been found, and most likely never will be, as the perpetrators of this incident were never caught. Dead End 1985. Directed by Emerson Bixby, this lost film created in 1985 was a horror comedy about the zombie apocalypse, which was caused by a crashed UFO. And it's notable for allegedly using real animal blood on set. However, despite some IMDb reviews and some blog posts about the film, no footage has been recovered. And the director himself said he lost his only copy of it in 1987. Me at the Zoo high quality version. The iconic first YouTube video ever, everyone knows about it. But everyone also knows it looks like it was recorded with a Game Boy. But what if I told you there is an HD version out there? Well then I guess I would be lying, because it doesn't seem like there is a high quality version. I mean, we gotta remember, this was made in like 2005. So this is that crispy 240p. But maybe there is the original video recorded with a higher resolution. But that would probably be lost by now, considering how many years it's been. Although many people have upscaled, and even AI upscaled the video to 4K 60 FPS. And it looks kinda weird, but it's gotta be hard to upscale potato footage. Doom 4. This was a planned installment of the Doom series that was cancelled in 2011, despite being in development since at least 2008. The game was said to be, quote, not a sequel to Doom 3, but not a reboot either. Although eventually after the game was cancelled, that's exactly what they did with Doom 2016. In 2012 though, gameplay and screenshots were leaked of early Doom 4 builds. However, the actual game build itself has never surfaced. Among Us 2017 prototype. This refers to a very early prototype version of Among Us that was never actually released, and only a few screenshots of it were shared by the developers on Twitter, which show the build, but there isn't much else to say about this lost prototype. Half-Life 0.16V. Now, this is a real obscure boy. At least I think so. Because when I googled this, I literally got no results, even though there is some really obscure gameplay I found of it on YouTube. And it's also described in a Valve Time UK article, which includes notes of the alpha which show that the build is dated August 24th, 1998. And it also actually includes a different draft of the final chapter of the game. Skunk Girl plus Maid. This is yet another pretty obscure one. I guess this was an RPG Maker game created by the user Mr. Big T, but other than that, there isn't too much I could gather on this. 1-900-490 Freak Audio. Beginning in the late 80s, there was an interactive phone number called the Freak Line that operated until the mid-90s, where people, usually kids, could pay $2 to call the line and either leave a message or hear one from other people. And apparently this was a pretty popular thing. They even have a commercial for it that's been found, which shows the mascot Freddy Freaker. And some of the best recordings were actually showcased on an MTV segment. But sadly, all of these phone line recordings are seemingly lost. Please Don't Stop. Found in a compilation of old Israeli VHS tapes is a lost and mysterious song dubbed Please Don't Stop, which is briefly featured on an intro sequence for the Israeli VHS distribution company Malibu Video, which was active during the 80s. And the song is actually in English, although only a portion of it can be heard. And despite many searching for the song, even with some of the lyrics being available, it hasn't been found. Not even the true name of the song or the artist behind it are known. Institute for Sex Research. Also going by this German name, which I definitely won't be able to pronounce. But this was a sexual studies institute founded in 1919 in Berlin, which even included some of the earliest research on transgender people. However, when the Nazi Party rose to power, they burned many of the books and documents from the library in a mass public book burning. And while some of the documents and books have been recovered, most of the contents from the library and archives were lost that day. I solved Stop and Swap. Now, I couldn't find too much info on this, but apparently this is a lost YouTube video in which someone claims to have solved the Stop and Swap Easter egg from the game Banjo-Kazooie. The only thing we could really find was a post on a different iceberg called the Video Game Hoaxes and Rumor Iceberg, which honestly sounds like it would be something fun to cover. But anyway, the post discussed the video, saying, quote, "This is another video I watched once and have yet to relocate. All it was a black screen with a guy rapidly explaining how he solved the stop and swap mystery before running through a very long list of steps that involve swapping between multiple N64 games. Ocarina of Time and Bomberman 64 were mentioned to my recollection, with one step standing out in my mind about fighting Sonic in Super Mario 64. The whole thing might have ended with a Rickroll, ? Nico Nico Doga glitches. Nico Nico Doga, also just known as Nico Nico, is a Japanese video hosting service which has operated since 2006, and is kind of like YouTube. There are some glitches that occurred on the site that are now lost, which Sakura Stardust did an entire video about. There was one with the seek bar moving, comments going by faster I guess, because on this they appear on the screen when watching a video, which honestly seems kind of annoying, as well as other playback errors and videos rewinding on their own, displaying random numbers, stuff like that. But there really isn't any evidence of these glitches occurring in video format, I guess. Lego Go. Lego Go was a 90s Russian TV show in which two teams would compete against each other in Lego building competitions in order to win a sticker. Yeah, hooray. The show ran from April 1995 to March of 1998, before the show was rebranded into KB Legonaut, with the prize being changed to a trip to Legoland in Denmark, which I mean, yeah, pretty good change there. But sadly, a lot of the show is lost, as most of the episodes were never re-aired, and not many VHS recordings of the episodes were made, although a few of them can be found on YouTube. Minecraft Unused Vote Winners Animation. So every year since 2017, Minecraft has held votes on which mob should be put into the game. And each time there's a winner, there is a special animation that plays for the mob. So it's presumed that there are animations made for each mob in case it ends up winning. Although we only ever get to see the one for the actual winner. So if there are indeed other animations for the other candidates, they have yet to surface online. Piano Lessons. With its first episode premiering back on October 8th of 1931, this is one of the earliest TV shows ever, and it's basically just what it sounds like. Piano lessons that aired on TV on Mondays at 8:15 p.m. And sadly, a lot of these very early television programs are lost forever, as there was no real way to preserve them back then. All we really have are listings of the show, but no footage or screenshots. MySpace deleted content. So this is more of a general one, I guess, not too much to go into here, other than that a lot of content was deleted from MySpace, but I think this is referring to a specific event in 2019, where during a data migration, every piece of content before 2016 was lost and deleted, including songs, photos, and videos. RIP. Edward Leon Scott de Martinville Recordings. So there's your butchered pronunciation of the day, great. Anyways, this refers to the French inventor of the phonautograph, a device that could record sound waves, and was the first of its kind. And interestingly, in 2008, some of these recorded sound waves were actually converted into real sounds. So in a way, they are the earliest ever recorded sounds. However, despite a lot of these being made playable, some are still lost or unidentifiable. Also, can't forget to mention the rumor that Abraham Lincoln was allegedly recorded by the device. However, this recording was never found, and this claim has been doubted by experts. Mothman. The classic cryptid Mothman. Anyone who's familiar with urban legends has heard of this creature, but I'm pretty sure this entry is referring to a lost independent horror film based on the legend, and follows an animator named Ellis who encounters the creature and attempts to prove its existence. There is a trailer that was released for the film, but the movie itself was never finished, and most of the footage remains lost. I Love Bees Hurricane Ivan Incident. So Halo 2 had a really interesting marketing campaign and ARG called I Love Bees, which had a website with a countdown that once ended would reveal a map with locations to certain payphones that when called, lore about the game would be revealed. And it was a really ambitious idea for the time, and all of these recordings have actually been found. However, the calls also had operators that acted in character, but one of these calls occurred during Hurricane Ivan, and still someone called from the payphone. And the operator actually broke character, saying, "Dude, it's a hurricane, put the phone down." But this phone call recording is lost. Penguin Zero Lost Videos. So the lost videos of Critical, or should I say Mabo Insano, because apparently that was his old YouTube username, and apparently he had over 500 videos that are now lost, which were created between the years of 2007 and 2010, and this is all described in a video he made in late 2021. Most of the videos were deleted, and a lot of it was gaming related content from Halo 3, Gears of War, and other games. However, it seems that only one of his hundreds of videos was ever found, which likely means that most of them are gone for good. Conker's 12 Tales. Announced at E3 1997, this was the sequel to Conker's Pocket Tales for the Game Boy Color, and was originally called Conker's Quest, or 12 Tales Conker 64, before eventually becoming Conker's Bad Fur Day. And this original version was much different, and despite there being a lot of gameplay from it, this build and version is still lost. Interestingly, this was before it became a mature title and was still marketed as a kid-friendly game. Escape from Team Fortress. This was an animated web series created in 2014 based on the game Team Fortress 2, with 8 episodes total planned for the project, which were all written and even voice acted, although only one of the episodes ended up being completed with animation. Photo Bucket. Now I think this refers to the image hosting service PhotoBucket, which did have a situation where many people lost access to their photos as the company stopped being a free hosting service and required a subscription, which was a very controversial decision to say the least. StarCraft Ghost. This was a planned installment of the StarCraft game franchise that was being developed by Blizzard, Swingin' Ape Studios, and Nihilistic Software, and was conceived as a stealth action experience for the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox. And in 2020, a playable build of this 2003 game for the Xbox was found and uploaded online. However, sadly, this download link is no longer available, and the game is once again lost. However, there is quite a bit of gameplay that was recorded of it when it was available. Halo DS. This was an unsanctioned demo of Halo on the Nintendo DS. And for a while, it seemed like this was fake. I mean, to be honest, it sounds like something made up, but it's actually real. IGN made a blog post with gameplay footage, but some speculate that this game is actually a port and retooling of another DS game called GoldenEye Rogue Agent. Regardless, this DS build of Halo is still lost. Stalker 2 2011 build. In 2021, an unfinished 2011 build of Stalker 2 was found, and in the build, many discoveries were made about this version, including maps, NPCs, and enemies, all of which were made in the X-Ray engine. Not much else to say about this one. Roly Poly's World Tour. Roly Poly's World Tour is a lost Japanese edutainment game developed by Outside Directors Company in 1997 for PC, and was released alongside another edutainment game in the same vein titled Nana Korobi Yaoki that same year. And both games feature the same Roly Poly characters and teaching elements. However, only the World Tour game is lost. Pokemon Crystal DLC. Released originally for the Game Boy Color in 2000 in Japan, Pokemon Crystal was also compatible with a pretty interesting accessory for the Game Boy Color, also only available in Japan, called the Mobile Adapter GB, which would allow you to connect your Game Boy to your phone, and would allow multiplayer capabilities as well as other DLC which could be downloaded using the device, which included mail and news about the online service, as well as the GS Ball. However, the service was actually shut down in December of 2002 because of the poor sales of the device. And so all of that downloaded content was lost along with it, although some have attempted to access it through the game's RAM, but so far it's been unsuccessful. Total Drama Reunion. So this was actually a fan-made animated web series of the Total Drama Island series that was eventually cancelled with only 2 episodes out of the 12 planned releasing. And only the first episode was actually saved and archived, as the second episode was only up for a few hours before being taken down. The Day the Clown Cried. Now this is a topic I did a deep dive into before. Did a whole video on it actually, but to make it brief, The Day the Clown Cried is a film created and directed by Jerry Lewis, starting production in 1971 and working from a script from 1962 that was completely rewritten. Now, what's notable about this film is the very strange plot synopsis and controversy behind it, because this film is about a clown at a concentration camp that leads Jewish prisoners into gas chambers. Yeah, that's actually real. It's not that surprising that this garnered a negative reaction from many people and was never released. Although in 2015, Jerry Lewis did agree to donate the film to the Library of Congress, as long as they agreed to not show the film for 10 years. And it's not guaranteed that it is ever going to be shown, but the earliest that it can be screened is in June of 2024. James Bond Per Fine Ounce. Per Fine Ounce is actually a completed novel by Jeffrey Jenkins featuring the character of James Bond that was just never released, written all the way back in 1966. Because after the death of James Bond's original creator, Ian Fleming, the publisher behind the Bond books decided to go with a different author, skipping out on Jenkins' novel. And while most of it is lost, there are bits and pieces that have been found, including a few manuscript pages. KidsTube. Pretty simple one here. KidsTube was a site that was shut down sometime in 2015. That was a video sharing platform for kids similar to YouTube. However, after it was shut down, it appears that all of the content uploaded there was lost along with it. The Flintstones 2013. Once again, we've got the Seth MacFarlane reboot. I know, I said I wouldn't say anything about stuff I've talked about 1,000 times. Let me just continue, I'll keep it short. Basically, Seth MacFarlane in 2011 announced that he was making a reboot of the iconic animated series The Flintstones from the 60s, and was planned to be released in 2013. However, due to issues with the script and other obligations, MacFarlane did eventually drop the project, and since then, some pieces of concept art have been found. Eraserhead deleted scenes. Shout out to my mom, I know she loves this movie, but there were quite a few deleted scenes from this film. Apparently 20 minutes of content was cut and is now lost. I can only imagine what kind of content it was. I mean, if you've seen the film, you already know it's weird already. Two of the scenes that were found include one where the main character Henry plays with a dead cat, and another short scene in which a man is standing over a bed with two women tied to it, which was only accessible strangely on David Lynch's website for members only. And I'm sure there was even more footage that is most likely gone for good. The Fall of a Nation. This was the sequel to the highly controversial film The Birth of a Nation, which was released in 1916, only a year later, and was actually said to be the first movie sequel ever made. And despite the commercial success of Birth of a Nation, this movie didn't see that same success and actually became lost, and still is to this day. All that really exists from the film nowadays are the soundtrack, as well as a few photos. Deep Kick. To coincide with the album release of One Hot Minute in 1995, the rock band Red Hot Chili Peppers created a documentary containing some of the recording sessions and interviews with band members, as well as some fantasy sequences based on each of the members. And despite material being recorded for the film, it was never released. And it's been said that it was never released due to its darker nature, as well as because of the fact that the album in question wasn't received as well, and because of the guitarist Dave Navarro leaving the group. However, quite a lot of footage from the doc has been found, including some footage that was featured in an official music video. Big Bible Town. Created by Third Day Games and released in November of 2010, this MMO was based on Bible lessons where you would also build a religious-themed town, and there's quite a lot of gameplay that's been found. However, at some point, the website as well as the game were completely shut down, making the game lost and unavailable for download. Food Dude. This is a kind of strange and unreleased CDI game, so you know it's God tier. And apparently it's a skating game where you have to dodge junk food. Yes, you heard that right. Actually, let me just read you this quote from one of these Zelda software engineers. Quote, "That was a scroller game where you were a sprite over a moving background, and we had stuff like bananas, apples, healthy food appear. And if you skated over them, you'd get power-ups. There was also things like ice cream cones and other junk foods that if you skated over them, you'd get hit and slowed down. Then, between levels, there was a static street shown and some full-motion video overlaid over the top of your Food Dude Kid character, talking to you about Earth First, peace, and stuff like that. And only this screenshot exists of the actual game. Oh, and also a bunch of weird miniatures were made for the project. Honestly, this thing deserves its own video, it's so strange. RPG Workshop Max. Created by the famous game developer behind Five Nights at Freddy's, Scott Cawthon, RPG Workshop Max was also just called RPG Max, and was an old project from 2002, and was a game where you could create your own RPG game. Apparently Scott has some other old lost projects as well, this is just one of them. The Simpsons Game 2. This is the cancelled sequel to the original Simpsons game created in 2007, and was in development at EA until it was cancelled in 2011. However, not too much is known about the project. but it is thought that a build of the game does exist, as someone who worked on it listed a Simpsons 2 prototype on their LinkedIn profile. But this build of the game, if it does exist, has never been found. TAS 1000 Lost Songs. For a second, I thought this meant there were 1,000 lost songs, but no, that's actually the name of this Canadian rock group, and it's just referring to their lost songs in general. And the Lost Media Wiki has a really in-depth chart of all their known, unreleased, and lost songs, so if you're interested, definitely check it out. Hymn. Now, I gotta be kinda careful with this one. How do I say this? Basically, this is a 1974 adult film involving a man that is attracted to Jesus. Like, as in Jesus Christ. It was screened in March till May of 1974, and briefly returned in December of that same year, and in January of 1976. However, since then, no footage from the film has surfaced, although a ton of ads for the film have been found. Garfield's Judgment Day. This was a Garfield special that was being animated by Disney in the 80s before it was cancelled before it could be finished, with voice work and storyboards being completed, as well as 15 minutes of animation for the special. But it was cancelled due to being too dark for a cartoon adaptation by Disney, and so it was adapted into a picture book in 1990. But the footage from the original special remains lost. Anthony Fantano First Reviews. Some more YouTube lost media. So Anthony Fantano is a pretty big YouTuber who reviews music, and he's been around for a while. And a lot of his videos were actually deleted, with an estimated 160 videos being lost. Although some have been found via the Wayback Machine and re-uploads, a lot of them remain lost. Blame It on Jorge Lost Videos. Ah yes, the man, the myth, the legend himself. Blame it on George. So as most of you who have been following my channel for a while know, I was heavily inspired by Jorge's content. He's basically the reason I started making videos, and if we're all being honest here, probably the reason we're even interested in lost media in the first place. Also, can't forget to mention the irony of the king of lost media content having lost media himself. Not that I don't have my own lost content, shout out to those who remember those old gambling videos.
Gloves! What? Yo! Let's go, what? No way, did I actually win that?
Now, a lot of Jorge's older videos can still be found on his channel, they're just unlisted, and a lot of the others have been archived on YouTube. However, there are definitely some that are actually lost, such as his really old skit videos and lists from way back in the day. YouTube hacked. This refers to a specific instance of YouTube's site being hacked, presumably by a user called May on Christmas of 2009, which Empleman did a pretty in-depth video about. During the hack, he basically changed the titles and thumbnails on videos, which is just crazy to think about. I mean, this is the most wild hack in YouTube history, and nothing like it will likely happen again. Hopefully, anyway. But yeah, a lot of this hacked and changed content is lost. I mean, it was only up for a limited amount of time, and not everything could be archived, which is what I think this entry is referring to. Still, it's quite an interesting story in YouTube's history. The Awful Truth About Society. This is a public access TV show that has quite a few lost episodes, which makes sense given it's kind of obscure and has well over 400 episodes. Mainly, this show is most notable for featuring a bunch of conspiracy theories and such, as well as this Vine featuring the host of the show. But yeah, not too much else to say here. A lot of the episodes have been found, but a substantial amount are still gone. Pink Crow's music videos. Created in 1985, this Japanese cartoon band was a pop group of aliens that released 3 singles that year, and there was also a music video released for their second single, Pinkish. However, it appears that there was actually a music video created for their first song, Here Come Pink Crows, which was released in April of 1985, but that video has not surfaced since. Prank Invasion deleted videos.
And it's mommy makeout day.
Hey, remember this guy? Hopefully you don't, but yeah, this guy had some wild prank videos on YouTube that were completely ridiculous, and staged to the point of it just being hilarious. And unsurprisingly, a lot of his videos were either taken down or deleted. But some of them have been re-uploaded, such as the classics Kissing My Actual Sister and Kissing People If They Sound Australian or something. I don't even know. Honestly, these should just stay lost. CR6. This was one of the earliest internet web series created in 1997 by troubled developer Chris McKinstry, and this project has a long and storied history. And a lot of wild stuff goes down here, which is covered in Jorge's video on the topic. But basically the show itself was a soap opera involving 6 main characters, but besides that, not too much is known, because it quickly faded into obscurity and became lost media. Doom Absolution. Planned to be released as a sequel to Doom 64, this game, titled Doom Absolution, was going to be centered around a multiplayer experience. But the project didn't last long before it was cancelled, due to how old the Doom engine was, and basically nothing has been revealed from the project. No footage, trailers, or screenshots of any kind. 100 years. So we've got some intentionally lost media here. Not even lost, but just locked away, I guess. Because this film, created in 2015, was advertised as a movie you will never see, set to release on November 18th, 2115. Written by and starring John Malkovich and directed by Robert Rodriguez. Definitely a strange and interesting case. Inside Out Bing Bong cutscene. Well, spoilers, I guess, but this was a different version of Bing Bong's death scene, which was said to be about 40 seconds to a minute longer, which was a lot more upsetting and tragic as you could hear the character pleading. And this version was cut due to being too much for younger audiences, and the scene in its entirety has not resurfaced. Although in September of 2021, a 7-second clip of the unfinished animation was found, but it does not contain the full scene. Kinetophone recordings. Developed by Thomas Edison in 1894, the kinetophone was a device that could be used to record sounds in visual format, and some of the very early recordings have been found. However, only a few have actually been restored, as many of them have taken quite a bit of damage over the years. Possibly the earliest project, known as the Dixon Experimental Sound Film from 1894, has been found. However, a lot of the other recordings are lost or too damaged to be used. Oregon Trail Original Version. The widely successful and popular computer game The Oregon Trail, released in 1985, had quite a long development and went through many changes before it was eventually released. The project first started in 1971 and went through many versions, originally being titled just Oregon, which was made for a history class. Eventually that idea was taken further and made into different versions. But the original from 1971 was never made public. However, one of the creators, Bill Heineman, did state in 2017 that he did in fact have a copy of it. Yongle Encyclopedia. So some more historical stuff. The Yongle Encyclopedia was a huge one, the largest one ever written, with an estimated 11,000 volumes, being worked on from 1403 to 1408, written by over 9,000 scholars and containing over 50 million Chinese characters. and it included much of the early Chinese beliefs, traditions, and history. However, parts of it would become lost or even destroyed throughout the years, and only around 400 volumes of the encyclopedia still exist today, with the rest being either lost or destroyed. Although there have been some pretty recent discoveries of pieces of this encyclopedia. Dragon King: The Fighting Game. So the incredibly popular Nintendo 3D fighting game Smash Bros., the original one for the N64, actually started as a completely different game, although it did have similar gameplay and was called Dragon King: The Fighting Game. But very little else is known about the game, and there are only a couple of screenshots of what looks to be a very early build, before the project was changed to Super Smash Bros. Smash Mouth: Old Habits. So from the creators of All-Star, aka the Shrek song, there was an album announced as the 5th of the band Smash Mouth in 2005. However, the album didn't actually release in its entirety, and as of now, a few songs from the album remain lost. Those being Say When, Baby Please Don't Go, Old Habits, and Sugar, all which only have snippets. Gojira Sea Shepherd EP. The French metal band Gojira in 2010 were in the production of an EP featuring 5 tracks that was to be released in 2011, and would also have all of the proceeds from the album go to an anti-whaling group called Sea Shepherd. However, due to a hard drive crash, the group had to postpone the album and re-record parts of the EP. Trust me, I can relate. I lost an entire video to a Windows bug reformatting my hard drive. Fun times. Anyway, the album was never actually released, and it's unknown if it was even finished, and only one track has ever been found from it, titled Of Blood and Salt. AJR Venture. The second album, Venture, by the group AJR was released in 2010. However, since its release, the group has deleted all known traces of it. But as of now, 4 of the tracks have been recovered, with the remaining 6 songs still being lost to this day. Despicable Me 2 Al Pacino Lines. Originally, while Despicable Me 2 was still in production, the iconic actor Al Pacino was brought on to voice the main villain of the film, El Macho. However, over a year after this announcement, and about 2 months before the film would release, it was announced that Pacino had left the project, citing creative differences. Although all of his lines were actually recorded for the character, but none of these recorded voice lines have ever surfaced online. It deleted scenes. Now, it's quite typical for movies to have a few deleted scenes, standard really. But this movie for some reason just has a ton from what it looks like. However, most of these cut scenes were eventually released through home media. But there is one scene that is still lost to this day. A scene that was said to be even too graphic and disturbing for an R-rated movie. This was revealed by Pennywise actor Bill Skarsgård in an interview, where he described the scene as a flashback to 1637, where Pennywise actually eats a baby. Yeah, pretty crazy. You didn't actually see it, but even the implication and the crunching sound that apparently accompanied the scene was just too much. And this screenshot shows what Pennywise actually looked like during this scene. Red House Painters / God Forbids demos. So these are actually 2 separate bands that both have some early lost demos. For Red House Painters, they had very early demos before it was even thought that the band started in 1991, as there was an interview that took place in 1988 with the band's frontrunner Mark Kozelek, where he talked about songs that were not even known about. But since then, one of them, called Surrounded, has actually been found. As for God Forbid, this was a band that Mark was a part of before Red House Painters, before 1988, which also has a lot of lost material that has never been found. Brahmin and Faded Hippie Psychonauts. Lil Darky is an experimental rap artist that also created music under the alias of Brahmin, which he released an album under featuring Faded Hippie on March 28th, 2018. However, only a couple of the songs are released or found, and most of the tracks don't even have titles or lyrics as of now. Each track also had a cover art, although only a few of these have been found as well. Maniac Demo. This very popular song, released on the solo debut album of Michael Sambello in 1983, actually has a lost demo version, which is said to be much darker than the original track. The song was horror inspired, more specifically slasher movie inspired, and allegedly included the lyrics, quote, "He's a maniac, maniac that's for sure, he will kill your cat and nail it to the door." However, this original version of the track has not been discovered. 100 gecs demos. The American pop duo 100 gecs, created in 2015, has quite a few unreleased songs and demos, like most bands and artists. Some of these were heard live, some are remixes, and some are just untitled demos. Cup of Idiocy. Alright, so Cup of Idiocy is a compilation of shorts and skits created by a young Doug Walker, also known as the Nostalgia Critic. The segments in the film were called Battle of Stupidity, Pointless Moments, The Unfit Firing Squad, A Ribbon Show, Late Late So Late It's Early Show, Jonin, and The Last Man on Earth. Parts of the film were first revealed in the Nostalgia Critic episode on A Simple Wish, and a lot more was shown when he actually reviewed the film in a Nostalgia Critic episode on his old home movies. However, these don't show the full thing. Conversation with Vincent. This is a lost and unfinished documentary film about the life of actor Vincent Price that was shot during the production of Edward Scissorhands in 1990, and was commissioned by none other than Tim Burton, who was a huge fan of the actor, and the doc was shot over a period of 3 days in April of that year. But the film was never finished, as it was put on the back burner as Burton was working on Batman Returns. And unfortunately in 1993, Price would actually pass away. The project was later retitled to A Visit with Vincent and was said to be an hour long, but sadly the project was never continued, and there is no footage from it that has been found. Circus Charlie Atari 2600 version. Released by Atari in 1984 in arcades and eventually for the Commodore 64, ColecoVision, Famicom, and other systems, Circus Charlie is a game where you control a clown in 6 unique minigames, and it was planned to have an Atari 2600 version of the game, which was in development. However, not much is known about the port due to the project being cancelled shortly after. All we have is a scheduled release date of September 1984, as well as promo box art. Deeks.com. This website, originally launched in 2008 by Dairy Queen, featured a flash game that contained a virtual world, where the players would be able to customize their character, aka Deek, which were the new mascots of the Dairy Queen kids meals. It also had a story mode with multiple chapters, such as Spooner's Storm Race and Unite the Deeks. There were also other minigames and flash games featured on the site. However, sometime in the summer of 2013, the virtual world was shut down, and all that was left were 3 flash games, entitled Spooner's Soft Serve Mountain, Grilla's Vintage Puzzle, and Blender's Fruit Frenzy. However, the site was completely shut down in 2017, leaving the flash games as well as the virtual Deeks world lost. Only screenshots of the many games and the virtual world are available. Heist. This game was basically GTA 5 before GTA 5. What do I mean by that? Well, Heist was a third-person shooter revealed in 2007. And was slated for release in 2008, and featured 3 playable protagonists, all with their own unique abilities. These characters were Kid, who was the driver, Crumb the shooter, and John as the leader. And in the game, you, as these characters, would do several heists, taking place in San Francisco in 1969. However, despite a trailer being revealed of the game, as well as an interview about it, it never met its 2008 release window, and in fact, development went quiet on the project for some time, before eventually being pulled from a release schedule completely in 2010. Leaving the game cancelled and any builds of it lost as of now. Fallout Extreme. This is one of a few cancelled Fallout titles. This one, Fallout Extreme, was in development in the early 2000s by a company called 14 Degrees East, and didn't get very far into development before it was cancelled, in favor of the game Fallout Tactics. And because it didn't make it far into development, the game was never even announced, and not much is known about the project. Only a few scripted sample scenes, as well as some concept art and screenshots have been found. Fallout Online. Yet another cancelled Fallout title, this time an MMO developed by Masthead Studios, that was said to have a map of 65,500 square miles. With also multiple races to choose from, each with their own starting point and story, as well as of course NPCs, character development and leveling, combat, skills, and a lot more. However, after Bethesda purchased the rights to the Fallout IP in 2007, and due to an agreement between studios that wasn't met, Bethesda rescinded the rights to Fallout Online and the game was officially cancelled. Fallout New Vegas demo. Alright, and now we've got the Fallout New Vegas demo, and this game is such a gem, let me tell you. One of my favorite games of all time, and it is definitely deserving of a lost content video. Although that would be a pretty huge challenge considering it has more cut content than I think I've ever seen in any other video game before. Speaking of which, the demo I think this is referring to is the one shown off at IGN Live 2010, in which a gameplay demo was revealed which has some differences from the final release, such as the New Vegas Strip being one big location and not multiple smaller ones that you have to travel through with gates. Not to mention New Vegas itself also seems much more populated. Gushers Redo Your Room. Also called Gusher's Place, this was a website and flash game that was being used as a promotion for an upcoming Fruit Gushers sweepstakes. Using codes from Fruit Gushers, players would be able to acquire new items for their rooms, which could also be customized. This all happened only for a short while in 2005, before the page was updated and completely changed in 2006. And eventually the site was taken down entirely in early 2009. All that remains are a few files downloaded from the Wayback Machine that can almost run the game, but sadly just kick you to a black screen. So all there is a TV ad for the promotion, as well as a few screenshots of what the game looked like. Pikmin Cheer Up. So this is an alleged pilot pitch created for a Pikmin anime series in the early 2000s. However, not much at all is known about it, although there is a minute of animation, which was uploaded to YouTube in 2010. However, this footage is actually believed to be from a fan animation, and not from an official Japanese anime production. However, for a fan animation, it is really well made, so I can see why this thing is thought to have been official, and potentially a clip from a larger animation or commercial or something. Shinin no Sosei. Now, this is a pretty obscure one, as this I think is referring to a very old Japanese silent film created in 1898, which can be roughly translated to Resurrection of a Corpse, and featured a dead guy who falls out of a coffin that two men are carrying and comes back to life. However, not much else at all is known about the project, unsurprisingly for a film this old. Still, it is interesting to hear about one of the earliest films ever created in Japan. Google Plus Media. Google Plus, shout out to those of you who remember this, basically was this very strange thing Google was trying to push for a while as a kind of social network linking together various Google services, such as of course YouTube. and yeah, nobody really liked it, at least from what I can remember. Because in late 2013, they made it so you had to have a Google Plus account to even comment on YouTube videos. Truly a dark era. And the service was officially discontinued in 2019. And I guess any media that was linked to these accounts became lost. EDP445 videos. Oh boy, so yeah, this very controversial YouTuber has a lot of lost videos, due to him deleting all of his content off of the platform after he was exposed. And later on, YouTube also terminated his channel completely. So of his thousands of uploads, there are only some re-uploads. Ministry rehearsal tape. Now this one ended up being pretty obscure and hard to track down, mostly because I had no idea what this is. At first I thought it was like for a church or something, but no, Ministry is actually a band that created an experimental album sometime in 1986. But I really don't know too much else about this case, but I believe this is what this is referring to. Independent Television / Broadcast Authority. In the UK, the Independent Television Authority, later called the Independent Broadcast Authority, was an organization that handled different aspects of independent television, including the use of test cards between programs since the 1950s. And while a lot of these have been found, there are still quite a few that remain lost, and some that are unconfirmed to even exist. Magical Girl Ryeon-chan. This is a Japanese and Chinese magical girl anime franchise from the 2000s, which had a manga as well as an anime and even merchandise such as figures. And at least the Chinese version of the manga has been found in its entirety. But as for the anime, not much at all is known. Only a few clips of it have been found, such as a transformation scene, as well as the opening. SpongeBob SquarePants incidental model sheets. So model sheets basically show the character designs in an animated show, and for SpongeBob there were even model sheets for the background characters of the show, which were known as incidentals. And there are quite a few of these that are known to exist. However, 3 of them were eventually shared by a storyboard artist on Twitter, and since then even more have surfaced, including incidentals designed for the Sponge Out of Water movie, but there are quite a few more that haven't surfaced yet. SpongeBob SquarePants Ain't Life a Beach. So this actually refers to the first ever piece of SpongeBob official merchandise that was ever revealed, which was a press kit titled Ain't Life a Beach, which was given out as promotional material for the upcoming series in 1999. Now, there's quite a bit to unpack here. First of all, that title, not exactly something kid-friendly per se, as it is a play on words of life's a bitch, right? Also, this just looks really cool. I mean, it included synopses of episodes, the original character sheets and bios, slide inserts, and more. However, despite there being images of this press kit online, the full thing hasn't been found. And this is definitely something every diehard SpongeBob fan would want to have in their collection. Frederick Francois Chopin sheet music. Definitely butchered his name, but this guy was a Polish composer who was active in the 1800s and created some very influential music compositions, most notably his piano pieces. However, as is the case with most very old musicians, a lot of his music, specifically his sheet music, is lost today. JBVO. Most of you lost media connoisseurs out there have probably heard about this one already, but I still think it is one of the most interesting cases, as this was kind of a spin-off of Johnny Bravo called JBVO, Your All Request Cartoon Show, which aired for only one season from April 2000 to August of 2001, and was hosted by the cartoon character Johnny Bravo, who would take requests for shows to be aired on Cartoon Network. However, most of these are lost. Usually they were just from Cartoon Network shows, but very surprisingly they actually played Dragon Ball Z one time, at twice the speed, with Johnny Bravo giving some commentary on what was happening in the show. I know, it sounds fake, but it's actually true. There is a small clip of it which has been found, and it just sounds so surreal.
Back on Earth, those Nanix dudes are recuperating. There's that guru guy. Oh, yeah.
Dragon Ball Frontier dub. Speaking of Dragon Ball, one of the earliest alleged English Dragon Ball dubs comes from a company called Frontier Enterprises, who did a lot of the earlier Godzilla film dubs. And they were also said to have done a dub for the first Dragon Ball movie, Curse of the Blood Rubies, as one of the voice actors listed it on his LinkedIn profile. However, besides that, not much else is known. It's been theorized that it was shown on airlines in the 80s, but nothing is confirmed with this one. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood Animax dub. And we have another anime dub. This time for the amazing anime Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. For real, I know this is a bit of a sidetrack, but if you've never seen this show, I'm telling you, you won't regret it. Anyways, this Animax dub that aired in Asia was said to be created by SDI Media, and possibly also aired in the UK. And it's thought that it aired possibly in late 2009 or in 2011. And quite a few clips of the dub have been found.
What would ever make you say something like that to us?
Well, ain't ya?
Oh, thanks for the food.
The City Gone Wild. This is a very old silent gangster film created in 1927 that starred Louise Brooks and was directed by James Cruz, although other than that, not much is known. And interestingly, one copy of the film was known to have survived, although this was all the way back in the 60s. When film preservationist David Shepard stepped in just as people were hauling off old film reels to be disposed of. But this copy hasn't seen the light of day since. Landy NES. This was one of the earliest NES emulators ever created, and was made for MS-DOS systems in 1996 by developer Alex Krasivsky, also known as Landy. And the emulator could only run a few games and had some graphical and sound bugs, as it was in the very early stages of development. However, this basis was actually used for a much more recognized emulator called INES, which became a more prominent one. And after its release, Landy discontinued working on Landy NES, and it would kind of fall into obscurity. And since then, there are no known downloads for this early piece of software history. Nickelodeon Game Builder. Created in 2009 and featured on Nickelodeon's official website, this flash game allowed users to use various assets from other Nickelodeon games and properties to create their own levels. And this game stayed active and was even updated at some points until 2013. When the games were removed from the website, and only gameplay clips exist as of now. Sam and Friends. This is a pretty cool piece of TV puppet history, as this was the first ever TV show created by Jim Henson, creator of The Muppets, and this show aired from May 9th, 1955 to December 15th, 1961 for 86 episodes. However, only some of the episodes are even known and have synopses, and some have even been found, but a lot of them are lost. J-Squad English Dub. J-Squad was a series of 30-second animated shorts that started airing in March of 2000, that were made using motion capture and CGI. The series was made by a German company, but it was aired in many countries with dubs of other languages. However, only some of the Australian English dubbed shorts have been found. Kanye West's Vault. I don't think it's any secret that Kanye West has many unreleased songs from over the years. There's even a Lost Media Wiki entry about a rather infamous one called Black Bruce Wayne, which had snippets of it leaked online. Although those were found out to be fake, and that the song didn't even exist at all. But I'm sure there's a lot of songs that Kanye has made that we don't even know about and that may never see the light of day. There's also Good Ass Job, Yandhi, and many more that we do know about. Check out All Things Lost for more info on Kanye Lost Media. Jeff Buckley, My Sweetheart the Drunk. This was the planned second album by artist Jeff Buckley. However, Buckley sadly had a tragic accident in the middle of recording the album, and died of a drowning incident on May 29, 1997, leaving the album incomplete. Although there was a posthumous release that was titled Sketches for My Sweetheart the Drunk, that included unfinished tracks. But before his death, he threw out a ton of material and full tracks due to being dissatisfied with them, and many of them are most likely gone for good, although some of them have since been found and have been uploaded online. Yahoo Answers. Another kind of general one here, but yeah, everyone knows what Yahoo Answers is. One of those question and answer sites that always had crazy, ridiculous questions or answers. Always a good time. But sadly, on April 5th of 2021, it was announced that Yahoo Answers was going to be shut down, and was put into read-only on the 20th of that same month. And by May 4th, the site stopped operating worldwide, all except for the Japanese version, which still exists. Archivists did get to work in the time that they had, and were able to archive 4.75 terabytes of data. But of course, they couldn't get everything, and the rest is likely lost for good. Ivan Sanderson Show. As detailed in a post on the Lost Media Reddit, user Red Rabbit describes one of the earliest TV shows broadcast in color, created by Ivan Sanderson, which I think this entry is referring to. The show was called The World Is Yours, and was aired in 1951. However, not much else is known, other than that it was a 30-minute program that starred Ivan himself, as well as a woman named Patricia Stinnett. It was a very experimental program, and only ran for a couple of months before being cancelled. And not much of anything survives from this show. The Walking Dead, Season 7, Episode 1, Alternative Deaths. So yeah, spoilers for The Walking Dead, Season 7, Episode 1. Skip to the next entry if you're still watching the show or are planning to watch it, because this episode has some wild character deaths. Okay, so in the Season 6 finale, we see Negan kill someone after doing his eeny meeny miny mo game. But we don't get to see who it is until Episode 1 of Season 7, which definitely upset a lot of people. But as those who watched the show know, it was Abraham who died in that scene. Also Glenn, but that was after that. Anyway, it's been theorized ever since that episode aired that they actually created different death scenes for each of the characters, as maybe they weren't sure at the time in Season 6 who they were really going to kill off, or they also might have wanted to avoid spoilers at any cost. And these alternate scenes are real. At least one of them is, as the scene of Maggie being killed was leaked online. And this scene is brutal, just like the real deaths in this episode. Also, there were even more alternative kills that were featured in Season 7 Episode 1 as some kind of hallucination that Rick was having. Although these are very short clips and not full scenes. But they did include the deaths of Rosita, Sasha, Eugene, Aaron, Maggie, Daryl, Michonne, and surprisingly, Carl. However, if there are more alternative takes of the full death scenes, they have not been found or leaked online. Clue alternate ending. The murder mystery film Clue, based on the popular board game of the same name, is notable for having multiple endings. 3 in fact. One where Miss Scarlet is the killer, another where it's Miss Peacock, and a third that's pretty wild and basically everybody is the killer. But there was also a mysterious 4th ending that was scripted and even filmed, but was never shown in theaters like the other endings. And this one would have had Wadsworth as the killer, poisoning everyone's drinks. Slime Rancher prototypes. Monomi Park, the creator of the indie hit Slime Rancher, released 3 early prototype builds of the game before it was released in early access on Steam in 2016. These prototype builds were available for download, but sadly as of now, the links are dead, and the 3 very early prototype builds are lost. Star Fox Virtual Boy Tech Demo. The Virtual Boy is a pretty infamous console and was discontinued not long after it was first introduced due to it being a massive commercial failure, which led to many unfinished and unreleased titles, one of which was Star Fox for the Virtual Boy. At least it's thought it was getting a Virtual Boy game because of a tech demo that was shown off using a Star Fox vehicle. However, this tech demo remains lost. Split Second 2. This was the unreleased sequel to the racing game Split Second that presumably began development right after the first game. However, at the studio working on the game, Black Rock Studios, there were many layoffs, and the game was cancelled in 2010, with Black Rock Studios shutting down entirely the next year. No early builds of the game have surfaced online, although there has been some footage uploaded to YouTube, as well as screenshots and concept art that's been found. Star Wars Battlefront 3. This was the 3rd planned installment of the original Battlefront game series from the early 2000s, before the reboot of the series in 2015. And this 3rd game had a really rough and long development cycle, starting all the way back in 2006 with Free Radical Design, and they worked on it for many years, although they had a very strained relationship with LucasArts. And eventually most of the company was laid off, and from that game there were many leaks, including various assets. But in January of 2016, an actual build of the game playable on an Xbox dev kit was leaked. Although this was a very early build and was not the latest one that the devs had worked on. Still an interesting find nonetheless. The Tonight Show starring Conan O'Brien. Back when Conan O'Brien became the host of The Tonight Show for a relatively short 146 episode run, which lasted only half a year, and one of these episodes is unfinished and lost, one that took place on September 25th, 2009, where Conan was performing a skit with Terry Hatcher and ended up slipping and hitting his head hard, resulting in the end of the episode and a visit to the hospital to find out he actually suffered a concussion from the incident. And so the episode was never aired and a rerun went on in its place. The only footage that exists from the episode is from a clip that was shown on the following episode. Memory Game. This was a game show that aired for a short run in 1971 called Memory Game, also called Joe Garagiola's Memory Game, who was a player for the St. Louis Cardinals and was also the host of the show. It was your typical question and answer game show, this time though with all female contestants, 5 typically, along with a returning winner, and contestants would be given a small amount of time to study and memorize before being asked random questions from their reading material. And basically the more questions you get right, the more money you can win. However, as I stated, the show only aired for a short while, and aired from February to July of 1971 before it was cancelled, with no reruns of the show ever being aired. And 5 episodes have been archived by the UCLA Film Archive. However, no footage from these archives or any of the episodes have been leaked online, and all we have are some screenshots. ZooTycoon.com. I bet a lot of you have heard of Zoo Tycoon. You know, that game where you build and run a virtual zoo? It's had many iterations over the years. However, the original website that featured various demos, DLC, forum posts, blogs, wallpapers, and other downloadable content was shut down in 2012. And looking up this URL only redirects to Microsoft's Xbox website, leaving a lot of material that could be found on the site lost for good. Although some pages have been archived on the Wayback Machine. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. This was a Halloween special for the Peanuts that aired on October 27th, 1966. And pretty recently, on August 26th of 2022, The lost original music recordings were actually found and were discovered in the archives of the Lee Mendelsohn Film Productions, including the full soundtrack as well as alternative takes. Linkin Park's Lost Songs. So yeah, like many other artists and music groups, there are some lost and unreleased songs. In the case of Linkin Park, there is a list of unreleased music on their wiki page, as well as a few other known demos, live shows, and recordings which are currently lost. Smokey Bear. So this is a cancelled game from 1983, planned for the Atari 2600 console, starring the character of Smokey Bear, a mascot used in the prevention of forest fires by the US Forest Service. And this was meant to be a simple educational game for young children to teach them how to prevent forest fires. Although not much else is known, despite the game being allegedly completed, and was just never released, much like a similar game called Mr. Bill's Neighborhood. And no known builds of the game have ever been found. WaltzWarning.com. Alright, now here's a really interesting one, especially for you Breaking Bad fans out there. So in 2009, as a promotion for the second season of Breaking Bad, there was a flash game that was created in which the player would be seemingly kidnapped by Walter White and taken out into the desert, as featured in an interactive video with Bryan Cranston portraying Walter White. And the player could actually look around the RV, which would prompt different responses from Walter. But the most interesting aspect was that you could get customized videos by submitting your name and photo. However, sadly, despite being nominated for awards, the game was lost in December 2020, when Adobe Flash was discontinued. And although there is plenty of footage of the game, it is currently not playable, and the Lost Media Wiki is still searching for this game. Cartoon Network's nude bumpers. These bumpers from Cartoon Network began in 2008 and featured these new mascots for the channel called nudes that would appear in bumpers of different varieties. Flick bumpers, which would show off movies on the channel, sketches, which were of the nude characters along with the Cartoon Network logo, thumb wrestling bumpers for different cartoons and shows, and the Up Next bumpers, which would show the upcoming programs. Thankfully, most of these have been found, and only some are lost, most of which are Flick and Up Next bumpers. The all-new Mickey Mouse Club. This was one of many versions of the Mickey Mouse Club series, which started in 1989 and ran for 6 seasons, and even aired as reruns into the mid-90s. And interestingly, this series starred Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears, and Ryan Gosling. However, despite this being a big Disney production, as well as having reruns and even starring actors who would become incredibly famous, some episodes of this series are lost or not available in their entirety. Barnyard Test Animation. Back at the Barnyard was a Nickelodeon animated TV series based on the popular 2006 film Barnyard, and aired from 2007 to 2011. But even before the release of the film, all the way back in 2000, there was an original test animation and pitch for the series. However, it was never released, and only some footage and screenshots can be found. The Price is Right Lost Episodes. The Price is Right is one of the most iconic American game shows ever, and it's been running since the 1970s, at least this iteration of it anyway. And over the years, over 9,000 episodes have been produced for the show, so it's no wonder there is bound to be at least a few lost episodes, but honestly there's more than a few. Some were banned episodes that were later found, some went unaired due to contestants being illegible, and for some it's unknown why they were never aired and lost to begin with. Some of these have been found later on, some not in their entirety, but a lot of them are still lost to this day. Super Mario Spikers. This was a pitched entry in the Mario franchise, being developed for the Wii in 2007, and was originally called Mario Volleyball, before it eventually was changed to Super Mario Spikers, as the game also took on some wrestling elements for some reason. And the team behind it, Next Level Games, had done animations, concept art, and even had an early playable build of the game, which was shown to Nintendo, who promptly rejected the game due to its violence. And despite some of these animations being found, the build is still lost, and not even footage of it can be found. Super Mario RPG 2. Also called Super Mario Adventure, this was a planned game for the Nintendo 64 disk drive, and was first shown off at Space World 1997, and was going to be a sequel to the SNES game Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. However, due to various changes during development, the game was reworked into Paper Mario, and was released for the standard N64 due to the disk drive's failure. However, the original prototype builds have never surfaced online, and it's unknown how different they really were from the Paper Mario release. Tamagotchi Tamatown. This is a lost interactive website that was made for Tamagotchi Connection version 3, and would allow players to explore Tamagotchi Town, as well as play minigames and collect items. However, on February 6th of 2013, the Tamatown servers were officially shut down, and everything available on the site was lost. Cool World Script. This refers to the lost screenplay of the animated and live-action film Cool World, about a cartoonist escaping prison and entering a comic book world of his own creation. Now, the screenplay originally looked much different, as the director, Ralph Bakshi, wrote a screenplay featuring a woman named Debbie Dallas, who was a half-cartoon, half-human hybrid searching for her father in order to murder him for even creating her. However, the film was completely rewritten, and this original screenplay is lost. All that remains are some storyboards and comic props from this original story. Freaky Flicker's Quest for the Golden Flicker. So this is kind of a nostalgic one for me. Not because Freaky Flickers even means anything to me, but honestly just because for some reason, I can just vividly remember this kind of obscure piece of lost media from one of Jorge's videos way back in the day. Anyways, if you haven't heard of it, it's a CGI animated film that was based off the Freaky Flickers toy line, which originally started as a TV series in 2005, before being reworked into a feature film in 2009. However, one night in the summer of 2009, the film, as well as all backups, were allegedly stolen by the toy line's creator, Peter Gantner, and only a few scenes, including the trailers for the film, have been found. Cursed Original Cut. Cursed is one of Wes Craven's most infamous works, and is regarded as one of his worst. It's a horror comedy starring Jesse Eisenberg and Christina Ricci, as they hunt down a werewolf to kill it before they turn into werewolves themselves. However, the original story wasn't as werewolf-focused, as it was about a group of strangers who are all attacked by a serial killer after getting into a car accident, and the killer is only later revealed to be a werewolf. And apparently about 90% of the filming of this version of the film was completed by the summer of 2003, before the script was changed. However, it seems the lost original cut isn't going to be released anytime soon, as stated by the film's editor in 2021, due to the ending not being filmed, as well as because it's unclear who owns the rights to the film currently. Mesmerize and Hypnotize original versions. So these were originally two separate entries, but since they are related to the lost songs of the same band, I thought I'd just combine them. So this refers to the albums Mesmerize and Hypnotize by the metal group System of a Down. both of which were released in 2005. And there are some lost and unreleased tracks from these albums, quite a few in fact. So hopefully one day these songs will eventually be released. Dio music videos. The rock band Dio has quite a few lost music videos that some people remember watching, such as one for the song Along Comes a Spider, where people remember a video where a spider climbs a wall to where a little girl is sleeping in her bed, with more and more spiders appearing as the video goes on. Although this may have been misremembered for the music video of I Could Have Been a Dreamer. And there are many others that haven't been found that some people claim to remember. Ed, Edd, and Eduardo. These are a rather mysterious lost series of shorts that featured the Eds from Ed, Edd n Eddy, as well as Eduardo from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, where he took the place of Eddie in the group. Some also believe that this could simply be from a bumper, and as of now, these shorts have not been found. Gaspard and Lisa. Also sometimes called Zoe and Charlie, is a French-Canadian TV animated series with 5-minute long episodes that were aired for 26 total episodes in 1993. And follows the characters through parodies of mythical or fairy tales, which are usually based on food. However, the series was kind of obscure and never had any home media release and remained lost until in December of 2016, the YouTube channel Ryan Vo uploaded the entire series. However, only some of the English dubbed episodes have been found. King Koopa's Cool Cartoons. This was a live-action spin-off of the Super Mario Bros. Super Show that was created in 1989, starring Christopher Collins as King Koopa, who would interact with an audience of children and show them old cartoons, as well as read fan mail and tell jokes. However, this series was pretty obscure and, due to low ratings, was cancelled not long after it started, and only a few clips of the show have surfaced since. Ren and Stimpy Life Sucks. Created for the Ren and Stimpy adult party cartoon, this episode titled Life Sucks remains unfinished and unreleased, and only some of the storyboards were completed for the episode, which centered around Ren and Stimpy having different philosophical views on life, with Stimpy being the optimist and Ren being the pessimist. However, despite it being considered by some employees one of, if not the best Ren and Stimpy episode ever written, it was cancelled as the show itself was canned due to low ratings. 8 minutes of an animatic of the episode have been found, as well as some concept art and storyboards. Peanuts sponsorship ad segments. During various Peanuts animated specials, there would be unique animations and ad segments dedicated to specific companies, such as Coca-Cola. However, only a few of these sponsor sequences have been found, and of the ones that are known, at least 4 of them are still lost. Tales of the Land of Genitalia. Wait, what? Did I read that right? No, yep, that's what it says. Apparently this was an animated short based on the 1969 comic book strip of the same name that was shown only once in the 70s at Sheridan College and has never been seen since. Timo Supremo. Created by Disney, this animated children's cartoon aired from 2002 to 2004 for 29 episodes and featured 3 kid superheroes, who were called Captain Crandall, Rope Girl, and Skate Lad. However, there was no home media release of the show, and reruns of episodes were rare, making some of the episodes lost. And although most of the show has been found, a couple of episodes are still missing, including some that have only been found in dubs of different languages. The Break-In Pilot. The pitch pilot episode of the animated series Recess was created in 1996 and was quite different from what the actual show ended up looking like, as the characters and art style were redesigned before it was created. However, this original pitch pilot was never released to the public, and only a few short clips of it, as well as some pieces of concept art, have been found. Top Gear Lost Episodes. Top Gear is a British TV series that has been going since 2002 for over 200 episodes, and is pretty well known. But actually technically it's been going since 1978 with an even earlier series for over 500 episodes. And in fact, a lot of the episodes that were made before 1988 are actually lost, with only a handful of them being found. The Tales of Super John. This was a very early series of skits created by the one and only JonTron, and there's not too much else to say here. 2 of the episodes have actually been found, but as far as the rest of the series, if there are more episodes, they are lost as of now. The Mysterious Mr. Enter videos. The YouTuber known as The Mysterious Mr. Enter had a review series where he covered cartoon topics called Animated Atrocities. And of the many videos he's done on this series so far, only a couple of the videos are now lost, including one which is partially lost, as well as another which is just missing the original version. Most of the lost episodes are due to copyright claims, and were simply never re-uploaded. Derek Savage videos. So Derek Savage you might better recognize as the creator of Cool Cat Saves the Kids, as well as many other weird projects. What I think this entry is referring to specifically, I guess he made some videos which are now deleted, although some of them have been re-uploaded, such as one where he explains copyright infringement versus fair use. But I guess some of his deleted videos are gone for good with no re-uploads. Bisame la Panache. I probably just butchered that pronunciation, but this was a Flash animated series from 2014 that is known for plagiarizing another Flash animated series. And the videos were deleted due to backlash over the controversy, before they were re-uploaded in a compilation video in 2016. But that video was also later deleted, and there is very little footage left, most of which can be found in a review of the series on YouTube created by Taco Taco Burrito. Pop-Tarts Crazy Good World. This refers to online Flash games that were used as part of a promotional campaign in the 2000s called Crazy Good, and were featured on the Pop-Tarts website. However, after the Crazy Good campaign ended in 2010, the games were removed from the site, and as of now, of all the games that were available, only one has been found and is playable. The rest are still lost today. Pringles Never Shut. This was a Flash game released in early 2005 as part of a marketing campaign for Pringles, and was titled Never Shut, although it was originally called Midnight Holiday Party. And the game was pretty simple, as it just involved the player typing in messages and getting responses from the cashier. However, as of now, there are no playable backups of the game that have been found. Pokemon.com. Here we have another lost website, the original Pokemon site before it was rehauled in 2010, which removed a lot of Flash-based games from the website, which are now lost. And there was one known to be a quiz game, a crossword game, water Pokemon themed one, a Tic Tac one, a puzzle game, and just a few others. And all of these games were lost on January 11th, 2010, when the site was changed. PlaneRock124 videos. PlaneRock124 is a pretty popular YouTube channel, featuring most famously his series Board Smashing, but he's been around for a while on the platform, making videos since around 2011. and there are many videos from his early days on YouTube that have since been deleted. Some of which are known about, and some that even have titles and thumbnails, but are still nevertheless lost. And a lot of information about these lost videos is found in a video he posted called Exposing My Past. Hideki Naganuma Lost Songs. Hideki Naganuma is a Japanese artist who has worked on various video games throughout the years, and he posted some of his unused tracks from games as well as some remasters, including tracks from Sega Rally 2, Super Monkey Ball 3D, and Sonic Rush. The 4 known unused songs have been found, but some of the remasters are lost as some of his uploads were taken down and never archived. Sonic Cafe. There are quite a few lost games pertaining to the mobile game service created by Sega in 2001 called the Sonic Cafe, which charged users 315 yen per month to have access to these mobile games from Sega, which included some classics such as the original Sonic the Hedgehog. And some of the games were lost in 2007 when the service was rebranded as Puyo Puyo Sega, and a lot more were lost when even that service was discontinued in October of 2019. And this is the list of the lost games from the service. Sugar Rush. This MMO was announced in 2008 and was developed by Klee Entertainment, and the game is described in a blog called MS Update like this. Quote, Sugar Rush was built to be a free-to-play online arena combat game. Play with your friends or battle it out in a devious or lighthearted world. Sugar Rush showcased a stunning 2D visual that sets a new standard for free-to-play games, and features the artwork of Jeffrey Alaga, the long-standing director of Atomic Betty and other TV cartoons. Designed with Klee's quirky sense of design and polish. The game also featured a complete character customization engine. The game is out of print, but is fondly remembered by the staff of Klee. So yeah, after the publisher abandoned the project, the game was cancelled. No early builds of the game have yet to surface. That Dude in the Suede's Missing Rant. This refers to a specific lost video from a critic called That Dude in the Suede, who was part of Channel Awesome. The video in question was a rant sometime in 2008 about YouTube's policies regarding copyright, which is supposedly why he was added to the site by Doug Walker. However, Suede has since deleted the video, and it has not been re-uploaded as far as we know. WCW Internet Only Special Events and Pay-Per-Views. So the WCW, or World Championship Wrestling, has had many events and pay-per-views over the years. And in the late 90s, they even had some exclusive ones available only on their website. They were called Saturday Nitro, Battle in Seattle, LA Melee, Profiles in Pain, Boston Brawl, and Malice at the Palace. The events were never released following this in any home media release, and only some footage exists through recordings of fans present at the actual events, so most of the actual matches, as well as the official recordings, are lost. Webkinz Beta. Webkinz was a pretty popular virtual pet game when those were really getting big in the early 2000s, and the site officially launched in 2005. However, there was a beta build that was made and given to playtesters in 2004. But this build wasn't well received, and the game was completely reworked before its official release the next year. Some of the original features can be seen in the video Webkinz Tour released in 2005. But besides that, there is no build of the actual beta that's been found. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 Deleted Scenes. So the infamous Amazing Spider-Man 2, pretty much considered the worst Spider-Man movie yet. But this wasn't exactly how the movie was meant to turn out. There were quite a few deleted scenes, although to be honest I don't think these would save it. But apparently the character of Mary Jane was supposed to be introduced here, played by Shailene Woodley. And there are a couple of scenes with her character that ended up being cut, with there being no footage of the scenes. Although director Mark Webb said about it, quote, "There was one little scene at the beginning where she is next door, and it took place right around the montage where he comes back, and there was another little moment between Gwen and MJ, but it just tipped over. The relationship between them is so sacred and so powerful that it just didn't feel right. And it sucks because Shailene is such a fucking great actress, and so cool and magical. But it was just about having this obligation to this romance that I thought was sacred. It was just one of those things." The Blues Brothers Uncut Version. This is a completely lost original version of a film called The Blue Brothers, released in 1980. A musical comedy starring Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi. And this original cut was said to be 3 hours long and even featured an intermission, and was shown only briefly at a theater in LA, before the film was cut down to 133 minutes for a theatrical release. However, when the director John Landis went to restore the original version in the 90s, he found that most of the footage was gone, and most likely lost forever. Cancelled sitcoms. This is a broad one, but yeah, basically a lot of TV shows are cancelled or even abandoned entirely, or just don't make it to the final stages of production, leaving some lost and unreleased episodes. And this especially applies to sitcoms, which during the 80s and 90s were especially popular. So there probably is some lost content out there from cancelled sitcoms that we don't even know about, or are just so obscure that there's little information on them. Yeah, this one. Sorry, I really don't know how to pronounce this name. But this one is notable because this was the first ever Korean silent film created in 1935, and was an adaptation of a Korean novel of the same name. However, the film was sadly lost, most likely during the Korean War, and there are only a few screenshots and a short clip from the film. Dead Easy. The Tales from the Crypt was originally intended to be a movie trilogy, including the titles Demon Knight, Dead Easy, also called Fat Tuesday for some reason, and Body Count. However, of these original three, only Demon Knight was finished and released, although Dead Easy was put into production, and some say actually was finished, although the film was not released, because it was intended to be filmed with a primarily black cast, and for some reason they filmed it with a mostly white cast, and they didn't end up releasing the film as they didn't want to be perceived as racist. And not much exists besides a teaser and some artwork. Aesop. So this could refer to a series of adaptations of a Turkish comic strip of the same name that were put into development multiple times over the years, but for one reason or another never ended up being released. There was a film worked on in 1979 that was going to be a full-length feature that was never finished. There was also a series of animated shorts created in the 90s, although these are kind of rare and hard to come by. And finally, in the 2000s, a film series was attempted that never got picked up. G.I. Joe the Movie Deleted Scene. This refers to a lost and deleted scene from the 1987 animated film. The scene in question featuring the death of the character Sergeant Hauser. However, in the final release, it was changed so that Hauser actually just went into a coma. But in the original scene, the character dies, and it was even fully animated and dubbed that way. However, this was changed before its direct-to-DVD release, and the version with the original dialogue has not been found. Her Original Cut. Starring Joaquin Phoenix and directed by Spike Jonze, in 2013 this film Her had an original director's cut that lasted about 150 minutes, compared to the 2 hours and 6 minutes of the final cut. None of the footage from this cut 24 minutes has ever surfaced, although Jones described it as containing a backstory for one of the side characters, as well as a documentary film within the film. And that is it for part 2. Definitely a lot longer than part 1, and I think there were quite a few more interesting entries. A lot that I hadn't even heard of before researching for this video. Over 150 entries for one part is wild, but guess what? The next one is even longer. Yeah. It'll probably take a while longer to get that one out, but we'll still have other content coming out in the meantime. Expect the last few GTA myth videos, still gotta finish Vice City and GTA 3, and I've also got some other secret projects in the works. Anyway, that'll do it for this part of the Iceberg. Let me know about any of these lost media topics you found interesting, or basically any other lost media cases that fascinate you, and hopefully they will appear in later parts. Anyway, this has been me, sourcebrew, and I will see you all with the next one. I'm out. Peace.